Welcome everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's actual cool topic about Dead by Daylight is going to be none other than a lore video. I think one of the first major lore videos that we've done, featuring the entity. And now a lot of you guys are like, well, how can you make a lore video about something that's so mysterious? Now that's a great question, because we don't know much about the entity. The end game doesn't provide a lot, but there's a lot of small details that if you really dig deep. And I didn't use any like Dead by Daylight forums or the Dead by Daylight Wikipedia stuff for this. I basically took everything I could find in game and tried to pretty much just kind of try to explain what this thing, this altered reality and the creature, if you will, is why he's trying to do this. What is the purpose, and what does it correlate to? So here we go on my best possible explanation of trying to explain the entity. Now, I'm going to kick things off about just the things you can do in game with the entity. Now, the entity allows this game that this creature has to be a 1-on-4 4 survivors, 1 killer. Now, the killer, as we know, the killers, as we know, have all been pretty much taken without a trace almost. And same thing with survivors. I just want to go through the killer side of how they've encountered the entity. So far, we know from the killer's backstories that it changes them into beasts, such as the doctor, Herman Carter. He would pretty much do the shock treatment on people and attach these wires into them. If you guys have seen any of the tombs for the archives, he's done that in one of the videos he showed. They show him actually doing that, and like taking the nails and applying these little like shock little bulbs and attaching wires into their bodies in a very gruesomely disturbing and kind of disgusting way. And then after that, you kind of see like flashbacks of him now as the doctor, turning into the doctor. So it's the same thing he's done to his patients. He actually happens to become. Of course, it doesn't hurt him. It's just giving him his shock treatment power. So he's altered that. He's kind of altered the Oni. Remember, the Oni was just a man, and then he became this massive beast with all this rage. The spirit who had her thigh cut off, her arms cut off twice. She's literally in pieces when we see her with glass in her, and she has a shattered katana. And basically resembling the fact of what happened to her before she became and agreed to go to this place to be the entity's killer. There's so many like little things like that. These horrible people, and sometimes the people who have been tormented that become these just disgusting figures of monsters, if you will. Now, we know that he alters reality. As we've seen, even with survivors, but we're trying to focus on the killer's aspect here of how they've dealt with them. He's always altered, and a good one is with Ghostface. I'm not going to read the whole story, eventually I'll do a lore video on that, but with Ghostface, specifically, I actually wrote down these couple words to describe how Ghostface encountered him. It's basically his bedroom changed to a forest with a whole bunch of fog in it. So he went from one moment being in his bedroom because he looked at this poster he wanted to put up, and then being just teleported somehow into this random forest with fog and nothing around him besides screams. So the 1 minute just like that, boom, he was in a whole other world. How is this possible? That is one of the things I actually want to answer too. Hopefully I can find out a good answer. Now, here's another one. With those who choose revenge or have any type of ill will towards another person, the entity somehow knows this and answers the call. This happened with the hag, who wound up having her intestines ripped out of her chest and eaten while she was dying on the floor by cannibals, and at the last second made this like prayer, so to speak, and then would become the hag. The entity answered that call, and then he became a killer. Now, again, the evil wrongdoings of Herman Carter, of course, made him become the doctor, because it actually kind of interested the entity, as we know. And mysteriously, a lot of them disappeared. The clown, who apparently at one point just kind of went on a road trip across America and just never was seen from again. It's the very weird, disturbing things that how did they disappear? Where did they go to? And how did they end up here? There's so many questions with the entity. It's like, how is this creature able to manipulate the real world and to hit into this world, and how is it able to do all that? Now, that's one of the more puzzling things about the entity. Oh, here's another good one. Cold chills. And this is a common thing with almost every character in the game. The fog swoops around them, and the cold is kind of always brushing on them. That's why they have this sense that this presence is here. It's a disturbing presence. They can't figure out what it is, but it's one for the killers that they have said is quite calming, quite soothing. It kind of gives them a purpose now. It's an uncomfortable sight to, like, not even sight, but it's an uncomfortable feeling. But overall, it's just how that's the entity's way of communicating with either the people he's trying to kidnap or the killer to convince them to come on. And as we know, it uses teleportation, and it can temper with killers' powers and survivors' powers. It has the complete control to alter any person's abilities, to give them abilities, to give them powers. It's almost godlike. It's weird. It's unheard of. Like how apparently Leatherface, anytime he hits you, you drop things. He's got the Franklin's Demise perk. He gave him that ability to do that. Or how he is, because Meg Thomas was a runner, he gave her running type of abilities to make her faster, to make her more agile, things like that. So it's like this thing is giving all this power and abilities to set up this game for his entertainment, for its entertainment, I should say. So it's like manipulating the system, and whenever it may be too weak, he can go in and change it again. Or if it gets too strong, he can go in and alter it for the purpose of entertainment. Here we go. Replicating places of which the survivors or killers come from. This is interesting because looking at Freddy Krueger's story, when he had Quentin Smith inside the basement, right before he was going to kill Quentin Smith, he swooped in, had the fog come around, and then take Freddy Krueger, and then replicate the entire place, including Freddy's basement. And yet it was still somewhat kind of off for Freddy, but he still knew he was in a similar being. So to make these killers comfortable to go happy hunting was replicating places such as Freddy Krueger's place or Michael Myers' place, the Lambkin Lane. So many places that it replicated, so almost the T. It was so authentic that it could have passed off as real. It's disturbing. And here's the thing: these killers are either teleported into a basement or a building or the woods. So there's a specific reason why the entity wants them in the basement or the woods. To go either immediately hunting, or to, I guess, get that sickening feel inside that killer to enrage them a little bit, because at this point, the entity is giving some of these killers a nice ability to then consistently hunt. They have unlimited prey. They'll keep coming. It's happy hunting. It's sickening. But remember, this is all for the entity's entertainment. Now, during one of the stories, I forgot to write down which ones particularly. I remember looking through his killers. He would take them and he would make the choices of who he wanted in his world. Or it wanted in his world. And if you didn't meet the bill, I guess you weren't in it. I mean, that's the most we can assume by that statement, that he had made a right choice by picking certain killers. So that means if there was a whole bunch of people that had potential, he was picking out the best ones for his game. Which is also a wild thing, to have the ability to pick and choose who you're bringing here, and to know about all these different things going on at one time is absolutely nuts to me. It's like this is an overseer. This is like we're gonna call him that. I'm not calling him an almighty, but definitely it's like this entity is an overseer of the planets or something. Because to know how the wrongdoings of people and innocent people in real life, being able to alter things, teleport things, to replicate, it's unheard of before. Disturbing. And here's the thing: sometimes, as I said before, he can pretty much bring people to his place just on purpose. Like the moment they're in a real world area, and there's a little bleak of doubt in either the killer's or survivor's mind, or if he's a little bit impatient. This is what he did to Zarina and the clown. He basically surrounded them, convinced them to come. Not even convinced them, but surrounded them, gave them this little tool, and then they eventually, with their let's say intuitiveness, happened to just stumble it into the place. That happens. Or he convinced them, like the spirit. He made an oath pact with the spirit to then kill to get revenge, even though the spirit would never get revenge on her father, but still convinced her enough, kind of lied to her, but convinced her enough to be the killer for him. Then he makes pretty much he actually no, this is a good one. He surrounds and engulfs individuals. He's engulfed way too many people to me have a list for it. That'd be it's like almost 40 names. Then I said before, he chooses whoever he wants. Like, he thought the Demogorgon would be a perfect hunt. He was a perfect hunter. The Demogorgon, that was a perfect choice. Disturbing as it is, the Demogorgon could be a perfect hunter. Actually, now that I think about it. But anyway, if people die before they die, the entity takes them and then puts them into his world, or pretty much just waits for them to die and then brings them back and takes them into his world. Cough, cough. The Death Slinger, things like that. So that's pretty much talking about all the killers and how they kind of encountered and were engulfed by him. Next up for this, we have the survivors and how they were engulfed. I just want to get through how people were engulfed, what does he do in the game, and then get to my actual theory. So, for the survivor, this is a good one. He pretty much captured lost wanderers. Like, a lot of people who went up wandering into the woods, like the story we just covered on Monday. Highly recommend to check that out. It was a pretty good story. Like the White, Claudette, who went for a little walk in the woods and then got lost. Or Jake, who lived in the woods, but then one day just kind of never was seen again. Then we have, basically, put it this way, folks. If you're in the woods, you're a goner. At some point in time, you're gone. It happened to Meg, too. She went for a run, normal route, never seen from again. And here's another good fact. If survivors go to places where the killers originated from, like the Crotus Pren Asylum or the Mount Ormond Resorts, Jeff Johansson and Nea Carlson, you're gone then too. Like, goodbye. And if you guys don't believe me, check out the Nea Carlson story that I covered in the first episode of the Dead by Daylight Stories. Absolutely, you definitely will check it out. It was a blast. So, also, if you had debts, it's time to collect, basically. The entity can be looked at as a debt collector, if you will. Just look at Ace Visconti. The man had a lot of debts and was never seen from again. Boom. And if you're about to die in heroism or valor, basically you were taken. Like Bill Overbeck, Detective Tapp, and Adam Francis. Bill Overbeck, of course, was left for dead, but trying to help everybody. If you guys play Left 4 Dead, you know what I'm talking about. Detective Tapp was a detective who tried to stop the Saw series from happening, basically. All those deaths. Adam Francis saved the little girl while he was I think it was Japan. He was in Japan, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And he saved the little girl while he was in a train because the door was about to hit the girl, and then he wound up before he actually wound up was supposed to die. The fog came in, kind of surrounded him and captured him. There was no trace of him besides like a handbag or something. Next up, the Wanderer, Fei Ming, who just wandered into people's homes, bars after just losing a lot of gaming tournaments. She just wandered one day and was in the wrong spot. Now, where she wandered to, that's a great question, but she happened to wander in the wrong place and got caught by the entity. Let's see what else. Oh, fog rolls around to anywhere, basically. Literally anywhere, because it wound up capturing Quentin along with Freddy. I think that was still, because he was still in the basement at that time. I forgot to mention that previously. Whew. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Pretty much, it can actually kidnap you and take you. This is one of the more disturbingly interesting ones that I could not fully grasp because it didn't make too much sense to me. This was the Kate Denson story, to where she was kidnapped, literally being taken by with help of these spiders who are huge and a whole these iron spiders for that, and they literally kind of took her and kidnapped her and took her into the world. She didn't really have a choice but to she was just should have just yanked, you're coming to my world. And I didn't really explain why. It just kind of went to detail that she was taken, kidnapped, and that was the last we've seen of her. Or people who died naturally, like Jane Romero. It wasn't specifically implied that she died naturally, but I'm assuming she did because of the fact she kind of drove her car into I believe it was a lake on the way home to see her parents. Because she kind of fell asleep for a little bit too long and then just kind of reared off, and that was it for her. And then she just happened to be here. So I'm gonna call her as dead. And if they were teleported, like Asher J. Williams when he was fighting that demon and he couldn't say the incantation right, and then the entity kind of stepped in, told the demon something that scared it away, and then the entity just took him it was like a tornado inside the house, and he like fell on his back right into the fog. Again, it alters reality for Steve Harrington. This was disturbing. But yeah, that was not a fun one for Steve. And here's a good one. Here's the thing: if you travel to a place where someone was killed, where the killer like did or reside at one small point in time, not to where like they kill people in like a certain like origin, because Caleb I think it was Conley, or didn't really the Death Slinger was in the same prison that Zarina wound up visiting to, and then had the same tools that were given to her to kind of escape to see what was on the outside. There's like a little hole, and that's how she was baited into just kind of going out of that place and then to the entity's reality. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. And now the good stuff, the entity in game. So as you know, the entity can alter map choices if bribed by add-ons, and also give advantages to the killers or their powers. That's what the add-ons are for. The only time the entity somewhat comes out to where we can see him is pretty much during when he's ready to impale survivors who are on the hook for the third time, or the end game collapse when he's still going to kill a survivor. He can communicate with the killers through murmurs and crows. That's why he has it there specifically. He has 2 perks of Spies from the Shadows and Murmurs and Whispers. It offers tools through chests for the survivor's survival, and offers maps, as well as medkits. It provides a hatch for survivors to escape and live onto another trial without dying. It will allow survivors to leave the realm if successfully escaping through the exit gate. It alters and grants powers to survivors plus killers. It views the game between the survivors and killers as a trial, as if they're being tried for something. That is all the information that I was able to gather from the entity. Now, it may seem like a lot for you guys, but to be honest, for me, it was relatively small. Remember, we don't even get to see it, basically. Now, here's my theory, and this is a one that could be far-fetched for you guys. Now, my theory is the entity is basically this overseer. For those of you who've ever seen Cabin in the Woods, I think with its obsession, I'm saying its obsession, I think it liked the idea of what Saw did, right? It liked John Kramer's idea of trials, and it wanted to take the trials, but then it saw what Leatherface did and on the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and added the hooks, and then it added generators to power things up. It's not going to be a game of hide and seek. So it put all these things in motion. It put all this in motion. Now, you're probably thinking, who is the inside man? I'll get to that in a little bit. I'll explain who that might be in a little bit. But it set this world up. It set this thing. Knowing it had all this power, where does it get its power from? I don't know. We don't know that. I can't even make an assumption on that. But with this power it's been given, it has the ability to, knowing it could alter things and convince people that there's so much wrongdoing out there. Those who did the wrongdoing should keep doing the wrongdoing, but as punished as toys, as only toys of entertainment, to be stuck to this eternal damnation to only do one thing, and that is kill. But of course, abide by the rules. The fact that it can alter and change and give powers, making it more entertaining, making it perfect choices, making decisive decisions that were crucial to the game. As then it sat there and preyed upon the weak, preyed upon the most vulnerable, and at their most vulnerable times took them to bring them to this universe. A universe that had to be so parallel to the real society that it would be able to manipulate things inside the real world. You guys wonder what this could be? This cannot be all the dimensions. It's impossible. How can it not be? In real life, we're not able to alter things. Maybe in our dreams, maybe in our nightmares, we're able to. But we still can't alter the reality. This entity, this divine, had the ability to do that. So that means it had to be so powerful that there had to be some type of fear that was instilled into not only the killers, but also the survivors, that was able to manipulate the brain and to believing certain things that would convince them, or not even convince, but would be able to sit there and bring them to this dimension. So as it's bringing all this stuff, it's setting up everything, making sure it's got every single detail locked, loaded, focused, that there couldn't be any mistakes. And the reward for the survivors for escaping this brutal and life-threatening thing, if they were to successfully go through the exit gates, they'd be able to leave this realm of hell, this realm of evil, with maybe learning a lesson. I don't know what that lesson may be, but each one was here for a different reason. Each killer was here for a different reason. And that's what made the entity. I feel like that's what makes the entity tick, and that's why we don't see it. It just provides the killing material, and when it kills, remember, when it kills the survivors, it just takes them and goes up into the sky again to put them back for another trial if they failed. Though they can endure that pain once again. Though that's why if they can never win, they're just doomed to an infinite life of death, of just fear, of horror, of pain, and of all types of suffering that could be allowed. Remember, the killers are the ones who are somewhat being pleased, but they also are being told what to do. They're forced to do this. They have no other option. So some of those killers may have looked for purpose. Some of them maybe not. But either way, they're there now and they can't escape. There's no escape for these killers. Remember, death is not an escape, folks, in this game. Death is not an escape in this world. You just kind of repeat. And I think that is the lesson that the entity is trying to teach to everyone in this. Everyone who plays this game. It's sickening. But the entity, that's why they have these tombs. To teach of why they were in there, of how sad the life may have been. Maybe the life that they were given, they took for granted. They weren't appreciative of it, and now they say that they need to be more appreciative of it. Now, there's so many small things that this entity could do, and that's why everyone that's in this game is a part of it. It's a lesson. It's a learning experience to teach. To maybe the methods aren't great. But when you look at some of these killers, it's to put them in the pain that other people were in. Because look at this, the doctor, for example, Herman Carter, who tortured people with electrotherapy and had no remorse for it. Guess what? He's stuck in this world. That's the same thing that he did to other people. He's his own damned creation, basically. I mean, the spirit who made an oath, who can concept to shift around because she's in so much pain. A lot of these killers are focused on rage, hate, and pain. They enjoy killing. They enjoy the bloodlust, or they're just trying to protect something. And that is what makes the entity tick, folks. The entity is, and what some of you could probably say is a lesson, is a hard lesson. Is something that we won't ever get to see because it already has a middleman that does all the dirty work while it just kind of gets everyone that way can sit down, relax, and be entertained. So if you're asking me who is the entity, that's a great question. It is just that. It is a divine. It is a mastermind, a creator, a devious individual, sickening at its core, and absolutely evil. Maybe its intentions it thought were good. Maybe I think it's punishing everyone involved. But for whatever reason, the entity is the one that gets the final say. The entity is the one that gets to say game over at the end of the day. So with that being said, everybody, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I know I did. So if you loved it, please do leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to BVTV, and hopefully you guys enjoy this. I'll have a live stream hopefully Friday or Saturday. So everyone stay off the hook.